We are indeed America's first region, and we hope to become America's best region. I want to introduce to you our featured speaker today. He is a former mayor of Charlotte, first elected in 1991. His message is regions that aren't unified compete at a disadvantage. His region, Charlotte, has bought into the regional concept, and a lot of the success that we all recognize from Charlotte has been a result of that. And I would welcome Mayor Richard Vinroot to the stage. Thank you, sir.
In a time when I had just had dinner just a few weeks into my campaign with former Mayor Andy Young of Atlanta, and we spent 2 or 3 hours together that afternoon, and Andy said to me, "What are you talking about in your campaign?" And I told him. He said, "Let me tell you what I think you ought to talk about." He said, "I'm leaving this office now, I can say this," but he said, "I made some mistakes, and the biggest mistake I made is I didn't realize that I was mayor of a region called Atlanta. I thought I was mayor of the 400,000 people in the city of Atlanta, and in fact, I should have spent more time with the folks out in the suburbs and told them that basically we sink or swim together. We're in this together." He said, "If I were you, I would talk about that, and I would begin to prepare for being mayor of a region that has an economic interest, and they ought to work together." So I did. And interestingly enough, I'm a Republican. My Democratic opponent spent the next 2 months telling people why I shouldn't be elected, because I was trying to be mayor of a region, and he was going to be the guy who protected the interest of Charlotte in the center. I won, and I decided I'm going to do what I said. So the first weekend that I was elected, my wife and I invited the 10 mayors and their spouses of our region to supper at our house. And we sat down that night, and I said, "Why don't we get to be good friends, and why don't we work together over the next several years and see if we can't promote our region and its interests?" And then I met the following week with the head of the Chamber of Commerce. I'm told you had his successor, Bob Morgan, up here yesterday. Carol Gray was Bob's predecessor. And I went and met with Carol, and I said, "Carol, let me tell you, you've heard my campaign, you know what I've talked about. Why don't we see if we can't do this? Why don't we see if we can't work together to create a regional association and a regional relationship between elected and business folks so that we can begin to promote the economic interests of our region?" And Carol is a huge go-getter. Boy, oh boy, did he take the bit and run with it, as did I. And I'm here to report to you that we, I think, figured out something that our citizens in our region already knew, and we, the elected officials, were probably the last people to get it. And that is, you don't live in Norfolk, you don't live in Portsmouth, you don't live in Williamsburg, you don't live in Chesapeake, you don't live in Virginia Beach. You live in an economic region that if you go to Paris or London or anywhere else today and somebody says, "Where do you live?" anybody from those places are going to say, "I live in Hampton Roads," or "I live in Norfolk." They're going to say whatever they think will tell these folks where they're from. And in our case, they would always say, whether they were from Rock Hill, South Carolina, or Concord, North Carolina, or Gastonia, "I'm from Charlotte." The mayor of Gaffney, whoever he was when he was mayor, would say that, "I'm from Charlotte," because they knew that was an identity that somebody recognized beyond just the things that we know in our region. So we decided we were going to get ourselves together, and we began the process. And we did it with not just the elected people, we did it with business people, because we're a city that really does work closely, and we're a region that works closely with our business interests. I organized a monthly meeting at City Hall with the mayor and the mayor pro tem, the chairman of our county commission, and the 2 managers, county and city managers, and the business leaders of the Chamber of Commerce. Every month we met for breakfast. Meet at City Hall one month and at the Chamber the next, and talk about our common agendas. And they still do that today. We work closely with each other. In fact, there are some people who say we work too closely with each other, and they wonder whether we, the government, elected people, are too much in the pockets of the people who are in business. But we recognize that our destinies run together. We created a regional committee in our city council. We put regional representatives on the Charlotte Airport Board to run our Charlotte Airport that we built and paid for and we pay for today. The people from our region govern our airport. We put a big office in our airport, bigger than this room, with several conference rooms, that is our regional headquarters. so that one gets off an airplane today in Charlotte and you want to learn what's going on down in Rock Hill, South Carolina, and what the opportunities are there for land and education and things that are interesting to you. If you're trying to bring a business somewhere, you can learn as much about going to Rock Hill, South Carolina, or Mooresville, North Carolina, or Monroe, North Carolina, in the Charlotte airport as you can about Charlotte. We promote the region in the Charlotte facilities, and the people in the region help us govern and run the Charlotte facilities. We created a bus service when I was mayor that began the process of taking our buses out to all those cities and towns I mentioned. A little bit of money from those towns, a lot of money from Charlotte, but we decided we were going to stop at this idea of having transit within the city of Charlotte when we knew what you said, Dana. 60 or 70% of the people working in the various counties around us didn't live in those counties. They didn't live in those cities. They didn't recognize those lines. I thought that election day was somehow every day. I knew I was running in the city of Charlotte for mayor, but the fact of the matter is it's only one day. And the other 364 days a year, the people in my city and the surrounding cities didn't care what those lines were. And all they knew about is the roads either weren't good or they were. The bus service either got to me or it didn't. And you either protected me very well or you didn't. And you either educated my children very well or you didn't. And they blamed all of us when it didn't happen. And the problems that ensued when it didn't go right was a problem for all of us, because those problems don't recognize jurisdictional lines either. So we began that process. The most important thing we did, beginning with that supper, is recognize and begin to talk about who we are, and maybe more importantly, who you are, who we were competing with. And we recognized that we weren't enemies of each other. We were together. You're the enemy. Atlanta's the enemy. Richmond is the enemy. Nashville is the enemy. Dallas, Texas is the enemy. Those are all regions, incidentally. And we needed to figure out how we could better compete with you as opposed to worrying about how we competed with ourselves. We recognize, as I think you do as well, because I've heard enough about what you're doing and I saw the signs in the airport, I know who you are, that you also recognize that you are competing with other economic regions and not with each other. And as I said, the people who were last able to figure that out were the people who are actually in leadership. And frankly, the very fine man that I beat for mayor probably knew it too, but it was much easier to campaign that way. There's something, and incidentally, in Richmond, they told me the same thing. Doug Wilder, your former governor, former mayor of Richmond, my friends up there, Doug's a fine man. They said Doug made a sort of a living out of sort of telling us how we're going to protect Richmond from them, and we're going to do this to take care of our own, as opposed to worrying about how we can all survive and succeed together. That's a temptation. It was a temptation for me, frankly, when I looked at the polls and realized that he was making some headway with me when he was saying, Richard's running for mayor of the region, not for mayor of the city. But if I can tell you one thing, forget the temptation. Do what is right for your community. And what is right for your community, for your region, is for you all to work together and to get to know each other and develop good relationships with each other. We now get it. I want you to know that. We really do get it, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. Ray Gardner is head of economic development in Lancaster, South Carolina. Lancaster is over the state line about 20 miles from the border of Charlotte, 15 maybe. He said, if you don't believe in regionalism, you are doomed to perish to death. That's pretty harsh, but I think Ray's right. If you don't believe in and begin to implement a regional plan here, you are doomed to perish to death as you try to compete with someone like us who does believe that it's important. And we've put our money where our mouths are on that subject. We created, in 1991, the year I was elected, the cities and counties and economic chambers of commerce interests in our region, what we call the Carolinas Regional Partnership. At the beginning, it consisted of cities and towns and counties, 5 of those counties being in North Carolina, 2 of those counties being in South Carolina. Today, some 17 years later, it consists of 16 counties. 11 of those are in North Carolina, 5 of them are in South Carolina. And what we started out calling the Carolinas Regional Partnership, we've now called the Charlotte Regional Partnership, and we call ourselves Charlotte, USA. It has a sort of pretentious sound to it, but the truth is, we did that after making a lot of analysis about who we were and how we could best sell ourselves. And the truth is, we can sell ourselves better as Charlotte, USA than we can as Carolinas Regional Partnership.